This is Jonathan Pedro. Welcome to the Symbolic World.
We all know Cain and Abel, that story, and that they're important. And then I think in general, we have this idea that, and then Seth is born, and Seth is kind of just like the replacement for Abel. And we don't know anything else about Seth.
Yeah.
But actually, in the traditional Christian framework, especially in the East, Seth is a very important figure. He's a very, very important figure. So we're going to talk about the birth of Seth, the death of Adam, and then we're going to get onto the Nephilim, which I know is what everybody's especially excited about right now, because several people came and said, "Oh, well, actually, the Sethite view of the Nephilim, that's actually the one that the church eventually accepted." So what we're going to do today is actually to learn what the Sethite view is, and then we can compare it to what Father Stephen said.
Yes. Today, Seth and the Nephilim. Let's
Today,
go.
Seth and the Nephilim. We'll see. So Adam and Eve mourned Abel for 100 years. And then Adam knew his wife again, and she brought forth Seth the beautiful, a man mighty and perfect like unto Adam. And he became the father of the mighty men who lived before the flood. So when you hear mighty men, you should actually be thinking about what are those mighty men of renown who are descended from the Nephilim, or descended from the Nephilim in Genesis chapter 6. Well, here we're saying Seth is the father of mighty men who lived before the flood. So you have these mighty men who lived before the flood. The thing to key in on here that's very important in this tradition is that Seth is basically Adam 2.0.
Yeah.
So Cain and Abel were almost like this split of each other, but Seth is a perfect reproduction of Adam. One of the things that this kind of means is that in the tradition, Seth is often seen as a type of Christ.
Yeah.
Now, this might be weird to people who, Seth gets like 2 lines in Genesis, right? But in the tradition, like I said, he's a much bigger deal, as you'll see in a moment.
Yeah, because he's often just in the Bible itself. It's understood that in some ways he is a restoration,
right,
after the fall, right? So you have this problem, which is that Abel is killed, Cain becomes a wanderer, and moves out of the proximity of the garden, and then Seth becomes a new foundation on which the generations are built, right? His descendants are the only ones that survive the flood.
Right. It's very important to understand that as part of this hypothesis that Eden was on a mountain. So the top is the Garden of Paradise, right? There's a wall, and Adam and Eve are kicked out. But when they're kicked out, they do not go all the way down the mountain to live in the plain. They live on the slopes of the mountain. So in the book of the Bee, it says Adam and Seth and his sons dwelt on the top, that is still on Mount Eden, but outside the gates of paradise, while Cain and his children lived on the plain below.
Yeah.
So this is going to be very important to understanding what it means for these sons of God to come down to the daughters of men, right?
Yeah.
So there's a mountain there. So
you have to remember that when Cain kills Abel, it says that he goes down.
Yes.
In order to kill him. And so it's like he's going down, he's getting further from the garden, going down into the plain, and that's where he kills his brother.
Yeah.
You can imagine, like, he stays there basically in the plain.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So to Seth was born Enosh, and Enosh begat Canaan, and Canaan begot Mahalalel. These are the patriarchs who were born in the days of Adam. And when Adam had lived 930 years, that is to say, until the 135th year of Mahalalel, the day of his death drew nigh and came, and Seth, his son, and Enosh, and Canaan, and Mahalalel gathered themselves together and came to him, and they were blessed by him, and he prayed over them, and he commanded his son Seth, and he said to them, "Observe, my son Seth, that which I command thee this day. And do thou on the day of thy death give my command to Enosh and repeat it to him, and let him repeat it to Canaan, and Canaan shall repeat it to Mahalalel. And let this my command be handed on to all your generations. When I die, embalm me with myrrh and cassia and stocti, and deposit my body in the cave of treasures. And whosoever shall be left of your generations in that day, when you're going forth from this country which is round about paradise, shall take place, shall carry my body with him, and shall take it and deposit it in the center of the earth." It's going to come up much later.
Mhm.
For in that place shall redemption be effected for me and for all my children. And be thou, O my son Seth, governor of the sons of thy people, and thou shalt rule them purely and holily in the fear of God, and keep your offspring separate from the offspring of Cain, the murderer.
Yeah.
So, instructions are, here's the cave of treasures. The cave of treasures has these things which are taken from the mountain of paradise, right? Myrrh, cassia, stacte, you should be thinking maybe frankincense and myrrh a little bit, maybe,
Yeah.
right? These things are here in the cave of treasures. And when Adam dies, his body's going to be embalmed and left there with the body of his son Abel, right? Remember, Abel's there as sort of the first martyr, the first relics. But then, whenever the descendants of Adam finally, and specifically the descendants of Seth, whenever they leave the mountain of paradise and they go out into the world, which he says is going to happen, they are to take with them Adam's body and deposit it in the center of the earth. Oh, and then it says, when the report Adam was dying was known generally, all his offspring gathered together, and they came to him, that is to say, to Seth, his son, and Enosh, and Canaan, and Mahalalel, and they and their wives, and their sons, and their daughters. And Adam blessed them. And the departure of Adam from this world took place in the 930th year, according to the reckoning from the beginning, on the 14th day of the moon, on the 6th day of the month of Nisan, which is April, at the 9th hour, on the day of the eve of the Sabbath. So that's a Friday. So you have a Friday at the 9th hour in the month of Nisan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, who else died on a Friday at the 9th hour in the month of Nisan? Well,
That's
it says
super
at the same
interesting.
hour in
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
the Son of Man delivered up his soul to his Father on the cross, did our father Adam deliver up his soul to him that fashioned him, and he departed from this world. Now, you can hear that and say, well, that's not in the Bible. But you know what is in the Bible is that Christ is the second Adam. That is actually, in some traditions, all creation is mourning the death of Adam, right? He's the first man, the first king. And Seth and his sons mourned for his death 140 days, and they took Adam's body up to the top of the mountain and buried it in the cave of treasures. And after the families and peoples of the children of Seth had buried Adam, they separated themselves from the children of Cain, the murderer. And Seth took Enosh, his firstborn, and Canaan and Mahalalel and their wives and children, and led them up into the glorious mountain where Adam was buried. And Cain and all his descendants remained below on the plain where Cain slew Abel. Yeah. And they're just sort of like, this is one of Adam's final commands,
He's like,
right?
don't mix.
Don't mix. Yeah. Keep your line separate from the line of Cain. Well, Seth became the governor of the children of his people, and he ruled them in purity and holiness. And because of their purity, they received the name, which is the best of all names, and they were called the sons of God, they and their wives and their sons. So there you go, guys. Sons of God means the descendants of Seth.
Yeah.
Checkmate, Father Stephen DeYoung. Or is it?
Or is it?
it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it says, thus they lived in that mountain in all purity and holiness in the fear of God. And they went up on the skirts of the mountain of paradise, and they became praisers and glorifiers of God in the place of that host of devils who fell from heaven. So one of the things it's saying here is, what is the sons of God? What does the term sons of God always mean in the Bible? It means the angels.
Yeah.
So why are the descendants of Seth called the sons of God? Because they are taking the place of those angels who had rebelled. And they're there on the outskirts of paradise, and they are taking up the praise of God and the glory of God, which was abandoned by those angels who fell from heaven. So far, so good, right?
Yeah.
There they dwelt in peace and happiness, and there was nothing about which they needed to feel anxiety, nothing weary to trouble them. So they have no want, they have nothing, and so they're actually free from, for instance, it says they suffer neither toil nor fatigue. They had neither seed time nor harvest, but they fed themselves with the delectable fruits of glorious trees of all kind, and they enjoyed the sweet scent and perfume of the breezes which were wafted forth to them from paradise. Thus lived those holy men who were indeed holy, and their wives were pure, and their sons were virtuous, and their daughters were chaste and undefiled. In them there was no rebellious thought, no envy, no anger, no enmity. In their wives and daughters, there was no impure longing, neither lasciviousness, nor cursing, nor lying was heard among them. The only oath which they used in swearing was by the blood of Abel. And they and their wives and their children used to rise up early in the morning and go up to the top of that holy mountain and worship there before God. And they were blessed by the body of Adam, their father, which is there among them as a holy relic. And they lifted up their eyes to paradise and praised God, and thus they did all the days of their life. Also, this idea, which is going to come up, it's going to be very important to understanding what's going on with the Nephilim, is this idea that the devil is trying to trick Seth and then his descendants into an act of fornication.
Yeah.
So, what could this possibly mean? Let's continue. So, when Seth had lived 913 years, he became sick unto the death. And Enosh his son, and Canaan, and Mahalalel, and Yared or Jared, and Enoch, and their wives and their sons gathered together and came unto him, and they were blessed by him. And he prayed over them and commanded them and made them to take an oath and said unto them, I will make you to take an oath and to swear by the holy blood of Abel that none of you will go down from this holy mountain to the children of Cain, the murderer. For you know well the enmity which hath existed between us and Cain from the day whereon he slew Abel. And Seth blessed Enosh his son and gave him commands concerning the body of Adam, and he made him a ruler over the children of his people. And Enosh, Seth's firstborn son, embalmed his body and buried him in the cave of treasures with his father Adam, and they made a mourning for him for 40 days. So, Enosh dies, his body's embalmed, and they make a mourning for him for 40 days. And that's going to be the new number for a while now.
Standard.
Yeah. So, and of course, that's still what we keep in the Orthodox Church. A loved one dies, we mourn them and we pray for them for 40 days. So Canaan stands up before God now to minister in the cave of treasures. He's an honorable and pure man. He governed the children of his people in the complete fear of God, and he fulfilled all the commandments of Enosh his father. And when he had lived, all right, not a lot happens during his life. When he lives 920 years and was sick unto death, all the patriarchs gathered together. Same thing, right? Here's the instructions. Don't go down the mountain into the camp of the children of Cain, the murderer. We've had an enmity between us and them since the days of Abel. Mahalalel, you're going to take over and rule before God in purity and holiness. You're going to serve God in the cave of treasures, which is, paradise, which is the church, which is all these things, right? We've talked about. Moving on then to Mahalalel, same kind of stuff happens. Mahalalel lives and ministers before God. Everything's basically uneventful. He dies. He gives the same instructions to his children. He's laid in the tomb. And then Yared or Jared, as it's sometimes pronounced, but his firstborn son embalms him, buries him in the cave of treasures. They make a mourning for 40 days. And then Yared rises up to minister before God in the cave of treasures. And he is a perfect man, complete in all the virtues. And he's constant in prayer by night and by day. And because of the excellence of his life and his conversation, his days were longer than those of all the children of his people. And in the days of Yared, the 500th year of his life, the children of Seth broke the oaths which their father had made them swear. And they began to go down from that holy mountain into the encampment of iniquity of the children of Cain, the murderer. And in this way, the fall of the children of Seth took place. Now, in another important Syriac manuscript called the Book of Adam, there are additional details about this. And that is one day, Yared is serving there in the cave of treasures, and Satan and 30 demons show up in the form of beautiful, handsome men. And they show up there at the mouth of the cave, and they call him out, and Yared comes out, and he sees that they're strangers, and he looks at them, and he says, "Who are you guys?" And Satan says, "I'm Adam." And those among his companions say that they are Abel and Seth and Enosh and Canaan, the other kinsmen, the dead patriarchs. And he says, "Hey, why don't you come with me and let's go up to the top of the mountain. Let's go back to the garden. It's time to go back. Let's go back to the garden at the top of the mountain." And Yared is eventually very excited about this. And so they go up the mountain towards paradise. And then as they're going up, Satan, who disguised as Adam, says, "Oh, I left something. Let me just send one of the guys to go back." And so he runs back. One of the devils runs back down the mountain, and he goes in and try to extinguish the lamp, the vigil lamp that is burning in front of the body of Adam and Abel. In the meantime, Satan and Yared, again, Satan pretending to be Adam, rest by a fountain up the mountain, and food is brought to them by the sons and daughters of Cain. Well, at this point, Yared is a little suspicious.
Hmm.
And so he refuses to eat anything that's brought to him. And then Satan says, "Oh, no, it's okay. Put aside your sadness. Don't mourn. Do what I do." And then Satan and his devils, who are disguised as human beings, attempt to teach Yared fornication. I won't go into the details here, but it's relatively graphic in the text.
Really?
And essentially what happens is that Yared bursts into tears. He prays to God to be delivered from the place, and God sends an angel to drive the demons away, to bring Adam back to the cave.
Sure.
But here, what it is the demons,
Yeah.
who are sons of God by virtue of being angels,
Yeah.
sees these women who are daughters of Cain,
Cain.
right, sons, daughters of men, and try to teach Yared, who is a son of God by virtue of being a descendant of Seth, to commit fornication with them. So
we know it's both. It's both, Deacon Sarah.
this is, which is that what we're talking about is ritual fornication prompted by demonic influence.
That's right.
Which is literally what is being described in basically one of the original versions of the Sethite hypothesis.
Yeah.
So I could be wrong. I do not think that these are mutually exclusive accounts. Later on, obviously, some of this memory gets lost, especially in the West. But this particular Syrian text is drawing on Saint Ephrem, right? But it's a few centuries later than him. So it seems like in the East, especially in Syria, in the Levant, that this tradition was continued, and that this continued to be the way that they understood what had happened.
Yeah, and that in some ways that this bridges the kind of Book of Enoch cosmological understanding of the demons, having interaction with humans, and it bridges that with something that doesn't cause theological problems, the theological problems that you see in the Book of Enoch. But this obviously, to me, it makes so much sense, and it just makes sense of not only the story in the scripture, it makes sense of why it would be such a big deal.
And it also ultimately reconciles both patristic interpretations, where you can see that they're actually not really in conflict with each other.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So you heard it here first, folks. There's no conflict between these two traditions.
Yeah.
You just don't take.
I feel like we've actually been saying this for a long time on universal history.
But now you have,
but I just really if you actually read the story, it's very, very, but the thing is, you have both interpretations. You have here's a son of God, an angel, trying to teach fornication to a son of God, a human who's living in communion with the angels who are faithful, and who's actually taken the place of the rebellious angels, trying to teach him fornication. Well, Yared, obviously, like I said, he bursts into tears. He prays for God to deliver him from this place. An angel comes. He goes back to the cave. He relights the vigil lamp in front of the bodies of the. Oh, and one of the things that happens when the demon went in, he had blown out the vigil lamp and then scattered the bodies of the patriarchs around, just made a huge mess of the cave. So Yared comes back. He has to set all of this in order, but you can think of the symbolism there. The vigil has been broken. You're not supposed to leave the cave, man. You're not supposed to leave the cave. So the vigil's been broken. And literally the patrimony, right, that you've received from your fathers has been just kind of scattered and disarrayed. So even though Yared himself doesn't fall into the final temptation, it is in his time that his people begin to go down to the children of Cain and to be taught fornication by the demons there, and the sons of God taking wives of the daughters of men.
when the vigil lamp was extinguished, his sons went down into the
Yeah.
and that is what the forgetting, right? It's in the forgetting that they were able to go down and to have these relationships with the sons of Cain. And so there's a beautiful kind of layered imagery of forgetting the commandment, forgetting to hold the vigil for Adam and our ancestors, and then at the same time going to the strangers and fornicating with those that aren't related to us, that are in some ways this strange potential. It's
Yeah.
a really great image.
So it says, in these years, the handicraftsmen of sin and the disciples of Satan appeared, for he was their teacher, and he entered in and dwelt in them. That is, this is when demonic possession begins.
Mm.
And he poured into them the spirit of the operation of error through which the fall of the children of Seth was to take place. Well, let's talk about the evils and excesses of flute playing. I think this
Yes,
would be
well,
a
we
fun
know
thing to
it
end
was
on.
just early rock and roll, Deacon Sarah.
Early rock and roll, that's right. The thing is, one of the arguments they made is, well, see, all the people who create this music, look at how chaotic their lives are and how they're all dying young of drug overdoses and things like this. And if you listen to the lyrics of the songs, they're about, a bunch
Yeah,
of things.
fornication. Yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah.
like actually not totally wrong. And it's music is a tricky thing.
But this is something that is actually, it's pre-rock and roll, because we have, for example, our traditions in Quebec where the devil is always at the dance. So if you have
Oh yeah.
you have a dance and you have a fiddler, the devil is there. He's among you. And so what I'm trying to say is that there, in the secular space, you could say, like in the space of desire, like you're in some ways always skirting this. You're always trying to figure out how to deal with desire in a way that won't pull you down into hell. And so
Yeah.
so you have to learn to dance with that. Everybody has to learn to dance with that. So the idea that music is related to this, even already in these ancient traditions, makes sense to me. But I think that the solution to me is not to say, well, music bad, right? The solution is to say, like, no, you have to understand that the same desire that leads people to fornication, those desires have to be mastered, right? That's what, in some ways, what dancing can be as well. Can be like a mastering of the desire, right?
It
Training.
seems obvious to me that one of the things that has accompanied um a very lascivious culture, pornography, like all the things we deal with in our society right now, has been a loss of the idea of like social dancing. That is the loss. When you lose that kind of thing, you lose the ability to actually teach young men, this is how you treat a girl,
Yeah.
right? And so then what all that is left is frenzy,
Yeah.
right? Which will be a word that comes up over and over again in the passage we're about to read. So
But in knowing that it's the antidote, you have to understand that the devil is still there at the dance. Like, you're not going to get rid of the devil at the dance. And so, but I think your insight is absolutely right, and people have to kind of learn to understand that, and then to play it out in the right way. But let's read about frenzy now.
all right. So Jubal and Tubal-Cain, the two brothers, the sons of Lamech, the blind man who killed Cain, invented and made all kinds of instruments of music. Jubal made reed instruments and harps and flutes and whistles, and the devils went and dwelt inside of them. By the way, if you've ever had a small child with a recorder, you know that this is still the case. When men When men blew into the pipes, the devil sang inside them and sent out sounds from inside them. And Tubal-Cain made cymbals and sistra and tambourines or drums. There it is. I knew drums. I knew it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think Mathieu must have read this, like, because we have flutes and
yeah, of
drums in
course.
our ritual.
Yeah, yeah. Of
Yeah,
course,
yeah,
Matthew read this.
yeah,
Like,
of
it
course
would
he
be
read it.
ridiculous if he
I
had
mean, I
not.
think I read it too. Anyways.
Yeah. And lasciviousness and fornication increased among the children of Cain, and they had nothing to occupy them except fornication. Now they had no obligation to pay tribute. They had neither. The children want taxes, Jonathan, and the fact that they don't have taxes to pay means they're just going nuts. It's a libertarian paradise here at the base of in the land of Nod. Lasciviousness and fornication increase. So they have no obligation to pay tribute. They have neither prince nor governor, and eating and drinking and lasciviousness and drunkenness and dancing and singing to instruments of music and the wanton sportings of the devil and the laughter which affordeth pleasure to the devils and the sounds of the furious lust of men neighing after women, like a
Like an
horse,
animal. Yeah.
like an animal. And Satan finding his opportunity in this work of error. So like this is all going on kind of like without the help of it's just like the sons of Cain being left to their own devices. Rejoice greatly because thereby he could compel the sons of Seth to come down from that holy mountain. There they had been made to occupy the place of that army of angels that fell with Satan. There they were beloved by God, and there they were held in honor by the angels and were called sons of God. Okay. So meanwhile, fornication reigned among the daughters of Cain, and without shame, several women would run after one man, and one man would attack another, and they committed fornication in the presence of each other shamelessly. For all the devils were gathered together in that camp of Cain, and unclean spirits entered into women and took possession of them. Huh.
Really?
Huh. The old women were more lascivious than the maidens. Fathers and sons defiled themselves with their mothers and sisters. Sons respected not
Jeez.
even their own fathers. I'm not going to read all of it, but it's
My
not good.
goodness. This
It's
is
so
like,
bad.
this is getting
And
crazy
it,
here.
yeah. And Satan had been made ruler or prince of that camp. And when the men and women were stirred up to lascivious frenzy by the devilish playing of the reeds, which emitted musical sounds, and by the harps which the men played through the operation of the power of the devils, and by the sounds of the tambourines and of the sistra, which were beaten and rattled through the agency of evil spirits, the sounds of their laughter were heard in the air above them and ascended to that holy mountain. And when the children of Seth heard the noise and the uproar and the shouts of laughter in the camp of the children of Cain, seems kind of like another moment in the Bible, by the way, Joshua and Moses being up the mountain talking with
Yeah, that's
God.
right. That's right.
About 100 of them who were mighty men of war gathered together and set their faces to go down into the camp of the children of Cain. And when Yared heard their words and knew their intention, he became sorely afflicted. And he sent and called to them and said to them, by the holy blood of Abel, I will have you swear that not one of you shall go down from this holy mountain. Remember the oaths which our fathers, Seth and Enosh and Canaan and Mahalalel, made you to swear. And Enoch also said to them, hear, O ye children of Seth, no man who shall transgress the commandment of Yared and breaks the oaths of our fathers and go down from this mountain shall ever again ascend it. But the children of Seth would neither hearken to the commandment of Yared nor to the words of Enoch, and they dared to transgress the commandment. And those 100 men who were mighty men of war went down to the camp of Cain. And when they saw that the daughters of Cain were beautiful in form, remember, the daughters of Cain are all possessed by demons, and saw the goodliness of the children of Seth, they gripped them like ravening beasts and defiled their bodies. And the children of Seth, sorry, I skipped a line. They saw that they're beautiful in form and that they were naked and unashamed. That's the part
Oh,
I didn't
wow.
want to skip.
Naked and unashamed.
They
Yeah.
see
They
that
were
they're naked and unashamed.
back in the
Well,
garden here, like
in
an image of the garden.
paradise,
That's right.
you are also naked and unashamed,
Yeah.
but for a totally different reason.
And one is in some ways the nakedness of a kind of pure non-sexual nakedness, and then the other is the kind of nakedness of defilement, and so I mean I think it's really powerful that they use that exact term here to
Yeah.
say that they're like a kind of satanic image of paradise.
So the children of Seth became inflamed with the fire of lust, and when the daughters of Cain saw the goodliness of the children of Seth, they gripped them like ravening beasts and defiled their bodies. And the children of Seth slew their souls by fornication with the children of Cain, daughters of Cain. And when the children of Seth wished to go up again to that holy mountain after they had come down and fallen, the stones of that holy mountain became fire in their sight.
Wow.
And having defiled their souls with the fire of fornication, God did not permit them to ascend to that holy place. And moreover, very many others made bold and went down after them, and they too fell. So,
Definitely you got demons again, twice.
yep. Now, I want to just as a coda here mention that in the book of Adam, this whole story is also given at great length, but we get some extra details which are kind of interesting. So first of all, we're told that Satan appears in the form of someone named Gunan, and he's actually the it basically explains that it's not just that the line of Cain created things like metallurgy and musical instruments, but that Satan appeared as this great teacher and
Yeah.
came to them and taught them how to make the rings of power. Wait, no, sorry. I mean, um, how to make musical instrumentation, how to make stringed instruments, and so on, and also how to make, how to do metallurgy.
Yeah, and
Into
weapons.
these, and then Satan entered into them himself and made the music which came from them. He also made, very sorry to say, corn spirit. That is this is probably
Liquor.
actually referring to liquor. Like corn in this case means wheat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But he made corn spirit and established drinking booths in which the men assembled and drank and ate fruit. Then he taught them to make weapons of war out of iron, and when they were drunk, they killed each other with the weapons. Next, he taught them how to dye their garments in crimson and purple, and they arrayed themselves in gaudy attire and began to race their horses. So, horse racing, sports, in other words. Um, Little by little, the children of Seth began to wish to join the sons of Cain. Look, they're having such a great time down there. They have war and fornication and sports.
Sports and
And
ornaments, and
yeah,
cool
and
clothes.
ornamentation, right? Gaudy attire.
Ornamentation's important in
Yeah.
this.
Um, in the Ethiopian recension of the Book of Enoch, there are also extra details about the fall of the children of Seth, and they're given specific names. Um, and there's lots of interesting things going on with the names. So, for instance, in the Keber and the Guest, which we've talked about in the past, it says that the children who are born of these unions between the descendants of Seth and demon-possessed daughters of Cain are so large that they could not be born in the ordinary way, but they have to be removed from their bodies by
Like
C-section,
a
right?
C-section.
And they become the giants, right? So you have all kinds of interesting things that are intertangled here, like medical intervention, which now becomes,
Yeah.
for the very first time, becomes necessary,
Mm.
right? And it becomes necessary, like with the increase of technology, the increase of techne, the increase of power. One of the weird things that we talked about, what the reason I wanted to bring this up is because one of the things that we talked about in our last video was it seems like as the technology for fertility is like getting better and better and better, but also fertility is super, super low.
Yeah.
So like, why would those two things go together? And I didn't have a good answer to the question at the time, but I think it's related to all of this, right?
Mm.
Um, and then it says now, the giants who were produced from the spirits and the flesh shall be called evil spirits on earth. Their habitation shall be on the earth. This is all this stuff that you find in the book of Enoch. Evil spirits shall proceed from their bodies, and the spirits of the giants shall consume and persecute and lay waste and fight and work and destruction of the earth and afflict men. They shall eat neither food of any kind nor suffer thirst. They shall remain invisible, and these spirits shall attack the children of men and women, for from them have they come forth. So that's from the book of Enoch.
Yeah, this is the idea that, that in some ways the Nephilim, the fallen ones, these giants become the spirits, like the demons as
Right.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, which is in Enoch, it's in Jubilees. It seems to be, I mean, there's a really good case to be made that this is what's being referred to by the evil spirits that Christ is dealing with in Gospel according to St. Matthew.
Yeah.
There's a good book about this. I think it's just called Enoch in the book of Matthew. But anyway, so when Yared lives 960 years, the day of his departure approaches and comes nigh and arrives, and all the patriarchs gather themselves together and come to him, and he prays over them. And he says something different. He says, I will make you to swear. Well, he says, I will make you to swear before by the holy blood of Abel that you will not go down from this mountain, for I know God will not allow you to remain very much longer in this holy country. Sorry. Yeah. And then he says, inasmuch as you have transgressed the commandment of your fathers, you shall surely be cast out into that outer country, and you shall no longer have your habitation on the skirts of the mountain of paradise. Take ye good heed to this. Let him that is among you who shall go forth from that holy country. So whoever ends up leaving, you have to take with you the holy body of our father Adam and the offerings of, what are the three treasures that Adam deposited in the cave of treasures initially? Gold, frankincense, and wait, there's myrrh,
That's
that are
right.
in the cave of treasures. And let him carry away and deposit the body in a place wherein he shall be commanded by God to set it down. And you, my son Enoch, depart not from before the body of Adam, but minister before God purely and holily all the days of your life. And Yared died being 962 years old on the 13th day of the month of May, on the day of the eve of the Sabbath at sunset, in 366th year of the life of Noah. And Enoch his son embalmed him and buried him in the cave of treasures and made mourning for him for 40 days. So we'll pick up next time with Enoch,
All right.
about whom there will be a lot to say. So when Lamech had lived 770 years, he died during the lifetime of Methuselah, his father. So Methuselah outlives his son 40 years before the flood on the 21st day of the month of September, on the first day of the week, in the 68th year of the life of Shem, the firstborn of Noah. And Noah, his firstborn, embalmed him, and Methuselah, his father, swathed him for burial, and they buried him in the cave of treasures and mourned him for 40 days. And then Methuselah and Noah remained alone on the mountain. For all the children of Seth had gone down from the skirts of the mountains of paradise to the plain where the children of Cain lived. And men, the children of Seth, had intercourse with the daughters of Cain, who conceived of them and brought forth men, giants, and the sons of giants, who were like unto towers. Now, because of this, certain ancient writers have fallen into error and have written that angels came down from heaven and had intercourse with men, and by them these famous giants had been produced. But this is not true, for those who have written in this manner did not understand the facts. Behold, O my brother readers, and know ye that it is not in the nature of the beings of the spirit to beget, neither is it in the nature of the devils, who are unclean beings and workers of wickedness and lovers of adultery, to beget, because there are neither males nor females among them. And since the time when the angels fell, not another angel has been added to their number. And if the devils were able to have intercourse with women, they would not leave unravished a single virgin. I'm really sorry about getting this video demonetized. In all the race of the children of men. To me, this text explains all of that thing. It acknowledges the problem. Okay, these are not embodied beings. You know, they don't have sex. They don't have gender in this way. But they are, of course, workers of wickedness and lovers of adultery. So what they're doing is prompting humans to act in this way. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.